Ladies and gentlemen of the chat, Dan VR with the alleged so-called quote-unquote release of Conquest just around the corner. A lot of old players are returning to the game alongside an influx of new players who have maybe seen a review on Deepwoken and they wanted to see what it was all about for themselves. Now, as old players know, and I'm sure the new players have found out, a massive part of Deepwoken is the player versus player combat. It's difficult to do anything without having somebody trying to rob you just because they feel like it. And a lot of people, of course, are wondering, how do I improve at the game? How do I get better so I can defend myself, defend my friends, or how do I get to be the one who goes ganking? How do I be the one who goes and starts these fights and finds all these cool items? Because of course it is fun. And I'm going to have a more unorthodox take. Now, a lot of people, I'm sure, are going to see a video on Deepwoken like, oh, how do I get better? And they're going to recommend Chime. Grinding Chime of Conflict all day, every day. What Chime of Conflict is, for anyone who might not know, is essentially an instanced arena combat. You have 3 skulls, so essentially you are afforded 3 losses in a row. You will go, queue up, and then it'll put you in an instanced 1v1, or a 2v2, or 3v3. Now, this is convenient. It allows you to find fights very quickly. But I would argue that for a brand new player, this isn't very conducive to building good habits. And let me explain. Let's say you get placed Chime of Conflict as a brand new account, you're around 500, 600 elo. You can grind Chime all day, every day, but ultimately, you're gonna spend all of that time fighting other people who are 500, 600 elo. You might get a little better at fighting them, you might get a little better at parrying or dodging, but you're not building good habits. You aren't fighting good players. What you're going to be really good at, like attacking, you're going to be really good at beating people in that skill level, that 500, 600, but it's not helping you become a better player, right? It's sort of, I hate to say mediocre, but that's sort of what it does. Chime allows you to fight only the people within your skill level without really pushing you to be any better. What I would instead recommend is utilizing Battle Royale. Battle Royale is available to everyone that has Chime of Conflict, and it is available from 8 a.m. on Friday to 8 a.m. on Monday. What Battle Royale does is it gives you a unique gameplay opportunity within Deepwoken. When you are in Battle Royale, first of all, there is no risk and there is no punishment. If you lose, you don't lose a skull. There's no threat of going to the depths and potentially wiping. You just go back to a lobby and you immediately re-queue. Another thing about Battle Royale is that it exposes you to all different types of playstyles. Let's say it's your first time playing the game and you're just doing overworld progression, depths progression, and then going into Chime to try to learn PvP. You have to stick with that attunement or that weapon. And it takes hours to make a build. Let's say hypothetically the first build you do is a flame charm build, and then you don't even enjoy it, or you don't like how it feels or how it plays. Let's say you go heavy and you realize, wait, I don't like heavy. I don't like how it feels. I'm not good at it. You already wasted hours, and now you have to spend even more time making a new build. What Battle Royale does is it sort of circumnavigates. Oh my God, I'm losing my mouth here. It gives you an opportunity to get around that barrier of entry, which comes with progression. Instead, what you're able to do is use any weapon you want, any mantras you want, any bells you want. You can essentially do whatever you want. You can have like the legendary weapon Storm's Eye, 3-star Shadow mantras, 3-star Flame Charm mantras, a couple Gale, Thunder Call, Frost Draw. You can mix and match and see, oh, I like how these mantras feel. I like how this weapon feels. You can figure out the playstyle that best suits you without having to dump hours and hours into building all of these random builds and all these different playstyles. Another thing about Battle Royale is that it exposes you to those attunements or to those weapons. It's not like every once in a while you're gonna fight like a cheese build, or I haven't really fought a crit blade build. I don't see them a lot in Chime. You're gonna see every type of build every single time you play Battle Royale. So it exposes you to these different game modes. It exposes you to these different playstyles, these different weapons. Now you're much more accustomed to seeing these other attunements or these other weapon types. It overall is going to make you a better player. Now, after you've played Battle Royale for a while, you've got the basics, maybe you've done some Chime, block, parry, dodge, you've got it down pat. Instead of, again, going and just mindlessly queuing Chime, I personally would recommend you going and ganking. The reason why I recommend ganking is even though it might be a little more tedious, even though it might be harder to find ganks, the ability for you to find players and fight players that are much better than you while ganking is significantly higher, and it takes much less effort than grinding out Chime until you can force yourself into like an elo just barely higher than what you are before you immediately get sent right back down. How I improved in the game was I would go ganking and I would find people that were ranked in Chime, or I would purposely look for people or guilds that I knew were like, oh, that's a competitive guild. They're probably better than me. Because when you fight better players, when you adapt to their playstyle, you yourself become better. Again, instead of just mindlessly grinding Chime, like I'm trying to drill this into your guys' head. Instead of mindlessly grinding Chime and fighting the same people in your own skill level over and over, go ganking. Go out of your way to find fights where you are at a disadvantage. Fight players that are significantly better than you. Because once you start to fight them and win, you will notice the difference. One of these days you'll get on, you'll have a gank, and it'll just click. And you'll notice it. You're winning, you're hitting all these parries, the mix-ups. It'll just make sense. I promise you. You just have to stick with it.